Greetings. I want to do my first, well, one of my first movie reviews. Been getting more into watching some movies lately because, like I always tell you guys, it's the film industry and the digital industry is kind of like the hieroglyphics of today's world. See, in the pyramids back in the days in ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, this was like entertainment. When they finished, when the artists, see, they were artists in Kemet, were not religious people. And when these artists finish, creating these different hieroglyphs and these different pictures and these different texts on the pyramid walls, they would invite the world out to marvel at these things they've created. When they finish building and constructing the pyramids, even, they would invite the masses out to marvel at what they've just done. So you have to remember that everybody in ancient Egypt did not build pyramids. People always say, well, black people, so-called melanated people, built the pyramids, and how come we can't do this today? That's because it was a certain class of people that created those particular pyramids. It wasn't everybody. That's what people fail to realize. It was not every single black person. It might not be in your DNA to do those things. You have to be a part of a certain class and a certain group, a certain elite group. They had elites back in the days of ancient Kemet as well. You need to get a book called Jesus, the Last of the Pharaohs, that will tell you all about the elite class that existed even in Egypt. There's always been an elite class, buddy. Always. So it wasn't everybody doesn't have it in their DNA and their blood to create a pyramid just because you're melanated, for one thing. Just like everybody doesn't have it in them to be an artist. Everybody can't be a good actor, like Jason Statham. Like, he's the guy that's on this particular movie. But my point, because I want to make this video very short, because I just want you to watch this movie. It's a good movie, and this movie is called Redemption. Jason Statham stars in it, and it's a Lionsgate film. Very interesting movie, and it's deep because this movie really, you look at the term redemption and you're like, what is that about? All movies have an exoteric meaning. This is how I'm trying to teach you how to watch movies. This is why I'm doing these movie reviews from a spiritual person's point of view. I'm not telling you to watch movies to get caught up into the glamour and glitz and all. Oh, wow, he just did that action stunt. Look how he kicked that dude. And look how he, I mean, that's cool, but that's the exoteric part. All movies have an exoteric meaning and an esoteric meaning. Every movie that they put out is painting a picture from the spiritual realm as well as on the mundane and in the worldly realm, because they have to entertain the masses and the sheep, but then they also have to let the groups, the elites, and people that are involved in the think tanks know what's going to happen next. So this movie is called Redemption for a reason. You have to ask yourself, well, I'll tell you what the movie's about. It's about him, Jason Statham. He's a special forces agent. This is like the mundane version of the movie and what it's about. He's a special forces agent, and he meets up. He gets out of the war. He comes back with all these problems. So he basically takes on this guy's identity, and he begins to live inside of. He's a soldier, so I mean he's already corrupt, because I mean most soldiers are corrupt. And he comes back, and I mean they're made to be that way. So I'm not knocking soldiers. I mean they're made to be that way. This is how they teach you to be a soldier. You got to be corrupt. You got to break the law and go against the grain. It's an art. So I mean I respect that. They know how to do things that a lot of people don't do and get into places that people can't get. So he breaks into this guy's apartment and takes on this guy's identity, because this guy is supposed to be out of town for like 6 months. So he becomes this guy, and this guy is like rich somewhere over in London. He breaks into this guy's place, and he lives in this place, in this flat over in London, for about 6 months. So in the course of that, he begins to work for this mob organization. He becomes a debt collector for the mafia, for the Chinese mafia, actually. And in the course of that, he meets this woman who's a nun, and she's a good woman, and he kind of likes her. He's actually gay in the movie, so he really doesn't really have a thing for women or whatever at all. But he kind of takes a liking to this nun, but she's like not the type of person that he is. I mean, he's working for the mafia, working for drug dealers, and I'm not going to spoil the whole movie for you. I'm just giving you a background of what it's about. He's working for the mafia, working for drug dealers, collecting monies for the Chinese mob to keep that money coming in. I mean, because that's the only work he could find. and she's a nun. So what happens is that he begins to break her off money. She runs a soup kitchen, feeding the homeless and feeding the poor. So he begins to drop off money to her, and like just donations or whatever, so that she can go and feed more poor people or whatnot. Because actually, the way he met her is when he first came back from the war. When he was poor, she fed him. So you know he has a good heart. So he drops her off some money or whatever, so she can feed more people once he gets into this ulterior lifestyle. And it kind of goes from there. I don't want to tell you too much about it, but it's called redemption for a reason. And this is what makes the movie really good, is because of the fact that this guy, on a deeper esoteric level, this represents debt. When you research the term redemption, see, this is dealing with the debt that the world is in right now. And when you research the term redemption, this is dealing with, when you study the redemption course, which goes into sovereignty, very important. This is why I'm pointing this out, because sovereignty, let me digress for a second. You know how I get. Sovereignty is a part of spirituality. See, sovereignty is a branch of spirituality. You cannot really be truly spiritual unless you understand sovereignty. And we have a redemption course research on our website and things of that nature, but I don't support everything in it. Like, I don't agree with everything in it, but I still sell it for research purposes. But when you research and you understand sovereignty, you have to understand the fact that you can't be free if you owe, or if you are a debtor, if you owe someone something. And this is why it's called redemption, because this man was empty inside. He wanted to be totally free. He had a daughter, actually, in the movie. I don't want to tell you too much of it, but he had a daughter in the movie, and he wanted to become totally free. So with the message that they're trying to paint to you in this movie on an esoteric level, so that when you watch it, you'll understand it, they're trying to tell you basically how we're going to be able to make this shift. We're not going to really be able to make this shift unless we're totally debt free on all levels. And the movie paints this picture. So redemption deals with not owing anybody any money on a mundane level. You have to free. If you want to become truly spiritual sovereign, and you want to be a free man and woman, you got to pay off all your debts. You have to find a way to do it, because you have to free your mind first. That's the first thing you got to do, is free your mind, and then your body will follow. So this goes into what needs to happen for humanity if we're going to shift on this particular planet, and if we're going to make it to the next octave. We have to go into a redemption course. So this movie is very key. It's very key, and I suggest you guys definitely go out there and watch it. It's a good movie. And then after you watch it, then begin to study sovereignty, because you'll see that, remember, he took on somebody else's identity. See, that's what happened with him. He basically changed his name. He became somebody different. See, this movie is all about sovereignty, even though you think it's not. That's what I'm trying to get you to see. This is the esoteric meaning of this movie. It's all about sovereignty, because even though he stole this man's character, though, or this man's identity, he ended up owing that man in the end. But I'm not trying to tell you too much of the movie, but it's all about political sovereignty. That's what this movie is about. So those people that are into that, watch this movie and then start studying sovereignty, and it'll take on another meaning for you. And then remember, he was a debt collector in the movie. This is why it's called redemption, because it's going into the fact of basically those people that owe debts and owe money are going to become the slaves. See, debt is slavery. And these people will become the slaves, and you cannot be spiritual and be a slave. You cannot be spiritual and be a slave, so you have to free your mind and begin to pay off all your debts to become a sovereign. See, they try to teach people, a lot of people, they try to teach sovereignty, and they say you can go sue the government, and you can go write up all this paperwork and sue the government and take back your freedom, when it's deeper than that, because the government is based on people. You can't just sue the government. The government, the people act like the government is just some straw man. When you say you owe the government, in reality, when you overstand sovereignty, you owe somebody. Even when you say you owe the banks, say for instance, people, they say they owe bankers. You owe the bankers, you owe somebody. You owe a physical person, and they're to use the bank as a medium. Remember, I tried to tell you on another video, the bank is a vessel. The bank is basically a place where everybody goes to exchange monies. So when you say that you owe the bank, in reality, you're exchanging money. It's an exchange. You owe somebody. So Very good movie. I'm not going to ramble on too much about it. Check it out. Jason Statham, The Redemption. I'm going to go ahead and shut this video down. Until we meet again, I'll leave you in. Peace. Good vibes.